In speaking with Connor Orr of Sports Illustrated, Russell Wilson spoke about how much longer he wants to play. Quote, 5+ years, I can still throw the ball 65, 70 yards. I can still move, and I think I'm capable of doing a lot. It's funny because to me, being in Denver in my first year, I was hurt most of the time and battled through it. The second year, I felt like myself again. Then going to Pittsburgh, obviously, unfortunately, I got injured early in the season. Didn't end up the way we wanted it to, but it just rejuvenated everything. And then being here in New York with the Giants, it's like playing the stadium again, knowing that I've held the trophy here before. So that was Russell Wilson talking with Connor Orr about his desire to keep playing 4 or 5 more years. This is his 4th team in 5 years. Hasn't the market kind of already spoken on him? And they just drafted a quarterback in the first round. So it feels like it's more likely that
and brought in a backup that could beat him out.
Yeah, it just feels like it's more likely that if he does want to play 4 or 5 more years, it's going to be in situations like this where, yeah, he's the starter for the time being until the rookie or the younger quarterback gets developed. That's what it feels like at this point in his career.
Go ahead, Q. You got it.
I think it's hard for every athlete. It doesn't matter, by the way, like at what level, but in particular when you're at the professional level, and even for someone who has won a Super Bowl, has been to 2, has played at an MVP level, I think to feel like they're not able to get the job done, right? I think we all, like, to some degree. I mean, again, LaVar, I'm sure there's times when you see man, you're like, oh, I could take him. Like, if I needed to go in for a few plays, I could do it. Now, can you do it consistently for the entirety of a game, for the entirety of a season? That's where it gets a lot more difficult, not only for your level of performance, but just to stay healthy. I mean, one of the things that he admitted to when he's saying this, too, is the injuries that have crept up more and more. You remember how durable Russell Wilson was at the beginning of his career?
Yeah.
Despite the fact that he put himself in harm's way all the time? I mean, dude, how often did we see him in his rookie and even second, third, fourth seasons? There'd be these plays where you'd be like, holy cow, he's Houdini. How did he find his way out of that? How did he make that throw? How did he make that play or get out of, and scramble to run and pick up the first down? Now, at times, he never took the big shot for the most part. But I think as it wore on and as he kind of realized that that's harder and harder to do as you age and you're not quite as fast or explosive, your game has to change as well. And I think that's one of the things that, not just for him, it's difficult for any professional athlete to be able to see that, because the game mentally is slowed down. Like, what you see out there is like in slow-mo. You know where everyone's supposed to be. You know what the responsibilities are. Then it becomes more of a battle of the physical and your ability to actually do it and get your body to do what you want it to do when you need it to be done. And that's where I feel like there's a bit of a disconnect probably between, how he's feeling, how he's played, but what he thinks about, everything mentally. Because he's like, dude, this game's never felt easier in my mind watching it and seeing it. So it's just kind of interesting to me when you hear these words, because at times, they might come off as sound like Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite. Mm-hmm. It comes off a little bit like that, but
how much you want to make a bet I can throw a football over the mountain?
65, 70 yards.
I'm just saying, like, at times it feels like that, but then at other times you go, oh, okay, like, he just feels like he's healthy now. He's in a better spot to go and perform. But time will tell. I mean, the draft pick 2 behind him, the fans are going to be clamoring for him. The organization is eventually going to want to see what they have in Jackson Dart. He's obviously a first-round draft pick for a reason. So the writing's not kind of already on the wall, and I think that's what makes it difficult for Russell Wilson in the spot. He has to hit the ground running. There can't be any lag or stall or anything in his performance. Any injuries like he had last year starting off in Pittsburgh where he couldn't get into the season healthy. None of that can take place. He's got a very, very slim margin for error to start this thing and get off on a hot start to maintain being the starting quarterback.
By the way, to your point, he didn't miss a start until his last year in Seattle. And I think that was the mallet finger he suffered. He suffered the mallet finger his final year in Seattle, and then he missed a couple of games. But before that, never missed a game, never missed a start his entire career.
And by the way, and I told you this because I've to this day I'd mallet finger. My index fingers on my throwing hands never felt the same after that. And, again, I don't know exactly what he went through from the procedure and everything else. And it sounds like something so small, like LaVar is probably like, oh, like, what are you, your index finger?
No.
But it's like for a thrower, it's important, right? That's like a little thing where you see like a Major League Baseball pitcher who's like on the IL for like a hangnail. But like, it's kind of important if they can't throw the way they need to. And I don't know that he's ever been the same throwing the football in his career after that. And again, something small, but those injuries add up, and it changes the way you play.
Let me throw this out at you guys. We talked about Robert Kraft and what he had to say and taking the risk in hiring Bill Belichick, which to me was a flex to remind people like, let's slow down here. Let's not get carried away about talking about Bill Belichick because he's going to be a Hall of Fame coach. Let's not get carried away about who he was a part of making a legendary player in Tom Brady because I'm the one that made it all possible with what I did. He's searching for that validation. He's searching for that appreciation. I look at Russell Wilson, and I think he's searching for the validation. I think he's still searching for the appreciation. He's gone to 2 Super Bowls. As you've mentioned, he's won 1 Super Bowl, as we've mentioned. I don't know what the 10 Pro Bowls are. I don't know if they are first ballot Pro Bowlers or if they're alternate Pro Bowlers, which it does. I mean, at some point, I don't know if it still matters, but at some point it mattered if you were an alternate versus if you were a starter to the Pro Bowl. So I don't know how many of those 10 are one or the other, but outside of that, he's never been a first-team All-Pro. And if you look at his body of work, if he's not as appreciated as he needs to be going into retirement or possibly ending up being a career backup for the rest of his time as an NFL player, is he at risk of not being a Hall of Famer? And I wonder if that is what's circulating in his mind within this 5-year period of time. I'm in a great market. It's a really good situation to be in. I know New York has struggled, but I'm kind of high on this Giants team this year. I think they're going to surprise some people. And if he can be the catalyst at the quarterback's position in that type of a season, doing it in New York, is 1 year enough, depending on what type of success they have, to solidify his career, or does it take one? I think at this point, I'll throw it out at you guys, and you could take it however you know where you want to take it. But I think he still needs more than one good season to solidify being at least a first ballot Hall of Famer, let alone possibly could miss being a Hall of Famer if he doesn't have critical years in these last few years that he has in the league as a starter.
Which is kind of crazy considering if you were to say second to last year in Seattle, all right, guys in the NFL that you think are going to be Hall of Famers, he would have been one that I would have thought had been a Hall of Famer. But the post-Seattle era has been so up and down and played out so poorly publicly that I do wonder if now the perception of him has changed from people around the league. Because it feels, I mean, even J.C. Treader was, throwing him under the bus, for not, not getting the contract that he was looking for and all that. It just feels like there's when the discussion happens around Russell Wilson, it's never positive anymore. And that was never the case in Seattle until the end.
Yeah.
Well, I felt like last year got positive. I mean, he came in and gave Pittsburgh a spark on offense. I know the season didn't end the way they wanted it to, and he probably wasn't playing his best towards the end, but you factor in the Pickens, sometimes deciding he wants to be out there, maybe he doesn't. I don't know. I mean, there was a compilation I saw on social media last season where I was like, I could only imagine, I was fortunate enough to play with so many receivers that, you knew when they were upset. You knew when they wanted the ball, maybe they weren't getting the ball, either because the defense was taking them away or they weren't the number one read on a certain progression. There are sometimes guys where they're just having bad days or they get too emotional about it. And you would see that from time to time. But I never had anyone who I felt like just wasn't going to participate in the play. I mean, there's times where it felt like that watching him last year. So that played a role as well. I had a former head coach tell me one time, when you start moving around teams, he's like, it's really, really hard to gain traction again. And he told me this at this point when I was a backup, and really they were offering me an opportunity to come back as a backup. And I wanted to take a chance to go see if I could compete to start or be in a situation where if I was a backup, I'd have a better chance of playing. Like, to me, I hated holding a clipboard. I hated sitting in meeting rooms and basically being an insurance agent. Like, that's what you are as a backup quarterback. You're the insurance policy where you go in and all of a sudden you've got to fill in the void like a starter, not getting the preparation, not getting the practice, as far as the same as a starter. But that's the expectation. And I was always like, man, this stinks. Like, I always needed reps. I was slow to learn how to read when I was young. I was always kind of slower to develop in that regard. So I was always someone who wanted to have, more of an opportunity to play and to actually learn from experience. And I think that's the tough part for Russell Wilson is you get to this point where you can't find traction.
How long did it take?
I don't know how long it took. I'd have to go back and talk to my mom, but I just remember, her needing to take extra time, needing to take a little extra time in school as well. But again, I digress.
Yeah, that was me digressing. You go ahead. I'm sorry.
Right. I think one of the things is when you get to a point like you're saying, Jonas, 4 teams in 5 years.
Yeah.
It gets hard to find traction because everyone that's there around you hasn't experienced the success you had in Seattle. They don't know you as that player.
Have that credibility all like that.
No.
Maybe a tad.
Think about this. Like, think about how long us three now have worked together. We worked together for years now. So we know when we see each other at Super Bowl, whatever, we know what to expect. We know, like, even if, hey, one of us goes out with Lee, Lee's a wild time. Like, we know we're still, we know we're us three
with Lee. That's what you
we know us three are still going to show up and perform. Now, we don't know if Lee will be there, but we know us three will show up and perform.